Happening now on Grid Tonight. Since last week's show, a lot has happened regarding Haas F1. Nikita Mazepin and your colleague no longer with the team today. Haas announced Mazepin's replacement. In your opinion, did Haas choose the right driver? Russian sports car driver Roman Rusanov isn't happy at all about the FIA's treatment of Russian drivers following their country's invasion of Ukraine. Why is Rusanov so angry? Matt White's here with your weekly Grid history update. Also, an ex Formula One driver from Brazil will make his NASCAR debut this summer with a new team. Who is this driver and which cup races will they enter? Hello to all of our viewers watching here in the United States and around the world. Welcome to Grid Tonight, your weekly motorsports news program. I'm Kobe Lambert from the Podium Finish, and with me is Adam Limmeries. Next, a special shout out to our Patreon supporters, Colin, Mark, Deschelle, and Robin. We appreciate everything you do for Grid Network, and thank you for investing in us. Link to our Patreon in the video description below. Please feel free to comment in the chat room, ask questions, and engage in the discussion. And we're going to start off with everything that's happened to Haas F1 since last week's show. And at the end of last week, hours before we went on the air for Grid Live pre-race on Saturday, Haas released this statement saying Haas F1 team has elected to terminate with immediate effect the title partnership of Uralkali and the driver contract on Nikita Mazepin. As with the rest of the Formula One community, the team is shocked and saddened by the invasion of Ukraine and wishes for a swift and peaceful end to the conflict. Yes, and as you saw in response to Russia invading Ukraine, many saw this move as inevitable. Haas dropping both Uralkali and his Russian driver Nikita Mazepin in Formula 2. The high-tech Grand Prix team also dropped Uralkali as a sponsor. Dmitry Mazepin, Nikita's father, is the CEO of the company and considered a Russian oligarch close to Russian President Vladimir Putin. And after Nikita lost his Haas Formula One seat, he released this statement of his own, saying, "Dear fans and followers, I am very disappointed to hear that my Formula One contract has been terminated. While I understand the difficulties, the rule in the FIA plus my ongoing willingness to accept the conditions proposed in order to continue were completely ignored and no process was followed in this unilateral step. To those who have tried to understand my eternal thanks, I have treasured my time in Formula One and genuinely hope we can all be together again in better times. I will have more to say in the coming days." Signed, Nikita. Adam, with the United States and the European Union hitting Russia with crippling sanctions and pressure to stop supporting anything with ties to Russia, did Haas F1 team basically have no choice but to end its relationship with Uralkali and Nikita Mazepin?
Yeah, they didn't have. I think it was the right move after everything that's going on right now between Russia and Ukraine. I know it wasn't easy, for Haas F1 to do this, um, but I think the timing was right. Haas F1 will still compete in Formula One, and we'll discuss the new driver later on in this portion of the show. It's gonna be it'll be interesting to see when all this after all this ends, where will Mazepin end up? Well, to me, I think he'll compete in sports cars. It's going, but I think it was the right thing to do with Haas F1 and Uralkali and Nikita Mazepin.
Yeah, I totally agree with you with the way everything was going. I felt like they were backed into a corner and there was no way out. They had to drop Uralkali and cut ties with Mazepin because you've seen all the other businesses around the world are dropping ties with Russia, pulling out their businesses, some temporarily, some don't plan to come back at all. And at some point, you're going to start getting a lot of pressure from people inside and outside of the organization that we cannot be associated with Mazepin or with his Russian based sponsor Uralkali, that Haas name cannot be associated with them. And I've actually seen some people keeping track of the businesses who have pulled out of Russia, especially those businesses who have not done so yet. And those businesses who have not done so yet, they're getting a lot of heat put on them right now to pull out. And I believe some of those are like Pepsi, Coca-Cola. We've seen McDonald's pull out in recent days, Pizza Hut as well, because of all the pressure that's being put on them. And if Haas F1 had decided to wait longer to cut ties with Uricala and Nikita Mazepin, you would have seen the exact same thing on them with enormous pressure to end this relationship. So I feel like that I understand Nikita Mazepin's frustration and being upset because he didn't directly invade Ukraine himself, and he feels like that he's been taken out in Formula One because he's guilty by association. But at the same time, he also needs to understand that Haas was backed into a corner, and they virtually had no decision but to cut ties with him. And following Mazepin's departure from Haas, everyone had been anxiously anticipating a major announcement from him this morning.
Hey everybody! As you know, I have lost my contract to compete in the Formula One World Championship this year. At first, the FIA, the highest governing body, has allowed me to compete as long as I'm a neutral athlete. But then, the team has cancelled my contract. Because of this, I have decided to make a foundation that will be supporting athletes that have lost their chance to compete in a sport at the highest level because of a non-sporting decision. We will be providing jobs, financial support, psychological and legal aid in case the athletes wish to debate their position. The foundation will be called We Compete as One. I would like to thank you for your support in my situation, and let's please support others as well.
We compete as one, as you heard Nikita Mazepin say in the video, starting up this program to help the Russian athletes who won't be able to compete in their respective sport this year. Mazepin believes athletes are being punished for political reasons. And Uricali released a statement saying Haas told them they decided to end their relationship because of the current geopolitical situation. The company views the decision as unreasonable and believes that sports should always remain free of politics and pressure from external forces. Uricali also claims most of the sponsorship money for the 2022 Formula One season has already been transferred over to Haas, and Dmitry Mazepin wants his money back. So we could potentially see an ugly legal battle play out in the courts in the future. Mazepin plans to use the refunded money intended for Haas F1 and the remaining part of the budget to fund their We Compete as One program. The Russian driver is receiving a lot of criticism for starting up such a program because many feel like he failed to read the room. Given all the attention to athletes losing out on their opportunity to play a sport, while innocent Ukrainians are losing their lives to violence across Ukraine. And speaking to the media early Wednesday in Moscow, Mazepin said he understands the world isn't the same as it was 2 weeks ago prior to the Russian invasion, and admitted this is a painful time for everyone involved. Adam, why are so many people against Mazepin's new We Compete as One program?
Well, first of all, when I heard about this, my jaw literally dropped. But I know, you know, I know it's not easy what's going on in Russia. Which I know it's not easy right now what's going on between Russia and Ukraine. And there are a lot of Russian athletes that compete in sports, and it's very interesting. When I heard about this, uh, you know, I you know I think we all remember what F1 has said. We race as one. Now, with Nikita Mazepin saying we compete as one, it's going to be interesting to see, what all develops from this. Hope, hopeful, won't wish him good luck with this, and hopefully a lot of people will understand what he said.
Yeah, and the outrage over this by fans online has been massive. They don't think this is a good idea for Mazepin to do this. As I said, they feel like he failed to read the room. He's worried about sports right now, while innocent people are getting slaughtered by the Russian military over in Ukraine. And it's really interesting, in my opinion, to see Mazepin so happy to support an initiative like this. We compete as one, and as we saw back when Formula One was doing the We Races One initiative, Mazepin did not want to kneel with the rest of the drivers before the Formula One Grand Prix events because he didn't feel comfortable doing that. But one time he did kneel before a Formula One race, but it didn't really have anything to do with protesting police brutality and social injustice at all. He decided to kneel in response to a Russian holiday called Victory Day, which celebrates the surrender of Nazi Germany in 1945. So I thought that was interesting that Mazepin was so interested to support this initiative, but he was hesitant of the initiative that Formula One had. We Races One. And prior to Formula One's preseason test in Bahrain, Formula One drivers met on the front stretch to take this group photo, wearing shirts saying "No War" with the flower in Ukrainian colors. 18 drivers pictured in the photo. Missing from this the protests against Russia's invasion into Ukraine were Haas's newly signed driver, who we'll talk about shortly, and then the multi-time Formula One world champion Lewis Hamilton. As expected, Hamilton received criticism for not appearing in the photo, considering his support for other issues all across society. However, Hamilton took to Instagram to explain his absence, saying his flight got delayed and he didn't land in Bahrain in time to participate with his fellow competitors, but he praised the move. And if Mazepin was still in Formula One, he would have been put in a really tough spot with all Formula One drivers united against the war. And knowing how the Kremlin government in Russia cracks down on free speech, how difficult of a position are Mazepin and other Russian athletes in, in terms of like speaking out about this?
I think they're in a very difficult position, Kobe. I know, they probably want to they probably want to speak out about this, like we saw Mazepin do. But it's hard. You were mentioning the Kremlin and free speech. You know, I think it. Hopefully we'll hear some other Russian athletes. Uh, about what they have to say, what's going on over there. Um, it. I know it's a very hard time for everyone between Russia and Ukraine. What's going on over there now, and you know, um, hopefully, we'll hear. Hopefully, we'll hear some Russian athletes come out and say what they want to say about everything that's going on, and hopefully they are allowed to do it, because you mentioned, Kobe, about the Kremlin and free speech. No, I know it's not easy for them in Russia right now, but hopefully we'll hear some Russian athletes come out and say what they want to say about everything that's going on.
Yes, it really would be nice to see a growing number of Russian athletes to come out against the war. But I understand the tough position they're in. As we mentioned, talking about the Kremlin and free speech. Free speech is basically non-existent in Russia. And recently, the Kremlin brought in a brand new law targeting press freedom. So basically, if Adam and I were broadcasting Grid tonight from Moscow right now, probably by tomorrow morning we'd have the Kremlin at our doorstep, and they put us in handcuffs and arrest us, because now in Russia you cannot refer to this as a war or an invasion. You have to call it a special military operation, because those are the words that the Russian President Vladimir Putin is using, and and that's just how they want to control the narrative. So what Adam and I we've been calling it, we've been saying war and invasion. If we were in Moscow tonight or St. Petersburg or any place in Russia, we'd probably be arrested and thrown in prison for like 15 years for simply telling the truth. So Mazepin and other Russian athletes, they're in a really, really tough position to speak out. And that's why we're not really sure what they truly feel about the war, because if they speak out, they could get poisoned, killed, or thrown in prison for many years, because going against the Kremlin is a big no-no in Russia. And it's really unfortunate that people cannot freely express themselves over there. And for the last couple of weeks, the United States and the European Union have vowed to target Russian oligarchs for their ties to the Kremlin and Vladimir Putin Today, the European Union announced a new round of sanctions against the oligarchs. Dmitry Mazepin and Nikita Mazepin were hit with direct sanctions. And starting with the sanctions against Nikita's father, Dmitry, it recognizes that his company's involvement in the economic sectors of Russia provide quite a bit of revenue to the Kremlin, who are responsible for annexing Crimea in 2014 and the ongoing military conflict in Ukraine. On February 24th, they said Dmitry Mazepin and 36 other business people met with Putin and other members of the Russian government following the initial stages of their invasion into Ukraine to discuss the impact of the invasion, anticipating sanctions from the United States and its allies. The EU believes the elder Mazepin receiving an invitation to such a meeting with Putin shows us that he's a part of Putin's inner circle. Next, here are the sanctions against Nikita Mazepin. The EU has basically said Nikita is guilty by association. As I said previously, with his father having close ties to the Kremlin, the US and EU have said they just won't target oligarchs like Dmitry, but they'll also target family members such as their children too. So that explains why Nikita was targeted alongside his father. Adam, were you caught off guard by the European Union hitting both Mazepins with sanctions?
Yeah, I was caught off guard. I when I um, it was really shocking to see, but you mentioned the EU. I know about the European Union, um, and and I was really caught off guard, Kobe. I didn't expect it at all, but it's gonna be it'll be interesting to see what all develops you know from Dmitry Mazepin and his son. Hopefully, down the road things will be calmer, more peaceful. But um, I know it's not easy for them in Russia right now. So I was really shocked about this.
Yeah, I was really shocked as well when I saw the news that the European Union had sanctioned not just Dmitry Mazepin but Nikita as well. And as I just said, that the U.S. and European Union said that they're not just going to target the Russian oligarchs like Dmitry Mazepin himself. They're going to go after the children as well. So you can't find a way to get around the sanctions. That they're targeting people in Putin's inner circle to put a lot of pressure on him over there in Russia. And as you were saying, Adam, we definitely hope that there's going to be a resolution to the situation soon, and we can return to having peace between Russia and Ukraine. But right now, the tensions are very high, and they're still fighting. And I see a hospital got bombed today in Ukraine. It was so sad, targeting pregnant women and newborn babies. Such a horrific thing to see. And this is going to be an ongoing situation we're going to be talking about for many weeks to come, many months to come, and who knows how long this could last. Could even be years. We're just hoping that something positive is going to happen, and we can move on from this horrible conflict happening right now in the world. And now here's the moment you've all been waiting for. Haas announced Mazepin's replacement in the driver's seat earlier today, while Pietro Fittipaldi is testing with the team this week in Bahrain. Unfortunately, he didn't get the call to race full time as a Formula One driver. Nico Hulkenberg and Antonio Giovinazzi, two former Formula One drivers, were also contenders for the seat, but not chosen. Haas decided to go with a familiar face. You see right here on the screen. Recognize him? Yep. Kevin Magnussen returns to Formula One full time as Mick Schumacher's teammate, signing a multi year contract. Photo courtesy of Haas F1. During Magnussen's first stint at Haas, he drove for the team from 2017 to the end of 2020. In 2021, he signed with Chip Ganassi Racing's Cadillac DPI program in IMSA, won a race last year on the streets of Belle Isle in Detroit, made his IndyCar debut at Road America, and competed in the 24 Hours of Le Mans, co-driving with his father, Jan Magnussen. Kevin competed in the Rolex 24 at Daytona in January with Ganassi again and was scheduled to compete in next weekend's Mobile One 12 Hours of Sebring, but an opportunity to race in Formula One again. Magnussen not available, so Ganassi is going to have to find a replacement driver to team up with Alex Lynn and Earl Bamber in the number 02 Cadillac DPI. However, in order to race with Haas, Magnussen had to get Peugeot to release him from his contract to compete in their Le Mans Hypercar program in the FIA World Endurance Championship. His role with Peugeot Sport didn't allow him to seek out potential opportunities in IndyCar and limited his participation in IMSA this year, with Peugeot experiencing some setbacks with their new LMH prototype and their race debut pushed back to after Le Mans. Magnussen was granted his release, and Peugeot put out this statement understanding Kevin's decision to return to Formula One and wishing the best moving forward as they continue to develop their car and start the process of finding a replacement driver. Adam, did Haas make the right decision to bring back Kevin Magnussen?
Yeah. You mentioned Kobe. He has competed in Formula One in the past with Haas F1. Haas F1 this year is going to have two very young drivers, Kevin Magnussen and Mick Schumacher. I don't know how well they'll do. I don't know if either one of them will score any points, but you mentioned a couple other drivers could have gotten the seat. Nico Hulkenberg and Chano Giovinazzi. Well, Giovinazzi right now is competing in Formula E, so I think it would have been hard for him to get out of his contract and compete in F1. But I think Haas F1 made the right call to get Kevin Magnussen in the seat alongside Mick Schumacher.
And as you remember, when Haas first announced that Nikita Mazepin and Mick Schumacher were going to Haas F1, a lot of people were scratching their heads because in Formula One, and especially with all the data going on in the relationship building with the engineers, it's important to have at least one veteran in a driver lineup, because the younger driver, they don't have the experience yet, and they're not going to have the knowledge, to tell the engineer what the car is doing, and, learning all the lingo and understanding what to do with, like, how can I make my car faster, what's wrong here, what adjustment can we make on the car so it'll turn better in this section of the track without compromising what it's doing in the other section. And bringing in two rookie drivers at the time, Mazepin and Schumacher, a lot of people saw that as a big mistake. Many thought it would have been best to have at least one veteran and then one rookie in the Indy driver lineup. And I think bringing back Kevin Magnussen to Haas F1 was a really good decision. I understand a lot of people wanted to see Pietro Fittipaldi get his chance and all of that. Yes, Pietro did get the run, or some got a little tongue tied there, but he's still got to do some Formula One race running. But Kevin Magnussen has years of Formula One experience. He's been there, done that, knows the lingo, the ins and outs of being a Formula One driver. And I think the presence of Magnussen is going to be a massive help for Mick Schumacher, for Haas F1 trying to move their way up the Formula One grid. I think this was a perfect storm for everyone involved.
Yeah, Kobe, and Formula One's going to have testing this weekend in Bahrain, and then just a few weeks' time, the 2022 F1 season gets underway in Bahrain. So it'll be interesting to see how Kevin Magnussen develops alongside his teammate Mick Schumacher in the 2022 F1 season. And now switching gears. Last summer in SRX, we saw a battle of father versus son at the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway in Tennessee between Kendrick Motorsports driver Chase Elliott and his father, NASCAR Hall of Famer, Awesome Bill from Dawsonville, Bill Elliott. In this year's SRX season, we'll see father versus son again, but a different pair of drivers. Last year we got the Elliots. This year we got the Blaneys. The Buckeye Bullet, Dave Blaney, will compete against his son, NASCAR driver for Team Penske, Ryan Blaney, on the dirt at Sharon Speedway in Ohio. And here's a tweet from Ryan Blaney, and it says, "Very excited to be racing with my father at Dave Blaney, in the SRX Racing finale at Sharon Speedway, a place that has meant so much to my family." So it's going to be interesting to see how son will do against his father, who has competed on dirt a lot of times because he used to drive in the World of Outlaw Sprint Car Series, one of the best. And now we switch over to some sports car news with Kobe.
I think it's really cool how SRX is marketed in his race as the Battle of the Blaney's. Brilliant, brilliant marketing right there. And last week, when we did our special report on the Russia invasion into Ukraine, the motorsport impact, and you can find a link to that episode in the video description below if you missed last week's episode, our special report. We reported on the FIA continuing to allow drivers from Russia and Belarus to compete worldwide, but under a neutral flag. The Russian flag, colors, symbols, or the national anthem would be banned in response to the invasion. That goes as well for the Belarusian flag. The FIA didn't go as far as other sports have, who had banned athletes from competing altogether until further notice. However, it didn't satisfy Russian sports car driver Roman Rusanov, who's been a regular in the FIA World Endurance Championship, the 24 Hours of Le Mans, and the European Le Mans Series. Rusanov leads the G-Drive racing team, has 2 podiums at Le Mans, won the 2015 LMP2 title in the WEC and the 2018 European Le Mans Series LMP2 title. Between the two series, he has a total of 23 LMP2 class wins. This year, we won't see G-Drive on the grid competing in sports car competition around the world because they've withdrawn from international competition and plans to focus on racing solely in Russia this year. Well, G-Drive actually entered 2 LMP2 cars in the Rolex 24 at Daytona in January before the Russian invasion took place in a partnership with Algarve Pro Racing, but Rusanov did not compete in the race himself. And in response to the FIA's new rules for Russian and Belarusian drivers, Rusanov went on Instagram and said he refused to accept the discriminatory actions of the FIA. He continues by saying the goal of each athlete is to hear their country's national anthem on the podium in these major racing events. His G-Drive Racing organization has raised the Russian flag, heard and sing the Russian national anthem many times on the podium, but for the time being, no Russian or Belarusian driver will be able to associate themselves with their native country. Rusanov, thinking about his fans, teammates, and sporting honor, he decided instead of racing under the FIA's current conditions, it's better not to race at all. Then he highlighted the diversity inside G Drive Racing, from drivers, mechanics, and engineers, all coming from different countries all over the world. And he wondered if everyone would be asked to give up their country's flag, I assume in a sarcastic manner. With G-Drive pulling out of the WEC, this hurts all the preseason hype they generated entering the season at their 10th year of international competition after announcing the signing of ex-Russian Formula One driver Danny Kvyat, who raced in Formula One for 6 years at Red Bull and AlphaTauri with 110 F1 starts and 3 podiums in Hungary, China, and Germany. Does Roman Rusanov have a valid argument?
Yes, he does. He sure does. Yeah. Um, you know, I like what he said. It's going to be, I know G Drive Racing is a very productive team. They've competed in a lot of like you mentioned, Kobe. They've competed in the FIA World Endurance Championship, competed in a lot of other sports car races, all over the world. And I think Roman Rusanov is a very talented driver. He has a valid argument, and hopefully down the road, we'll see him and G Drive Racing competing in sports cars again.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of emotion involved in Rusinov's response there. I totally understand his frustration here. Probably like Nikita Mazepin, he feels like they're being punished for something that they didn't do, and by discriminatory, he feels like he's basically been punished because he is a Russian man, he is a Russian citizen, he is a Russian driver. So in a way, I guess he said he feels like this is attack not only against Russian drivers, but an attack on Russians in general. And G Drive Racing is certainly one of the not just one of the top sports car racing teams in LMP2. They're one of the top sports car racing teams in the entire world. I mentioned all the Rusanov's wins, 23 of them across WC and European Le Mans Series competition. He's been everywhere, all over the world. I mentioned they ran the Rolex 24 in January here at Daytona, and and the momentum they had. As I mentioned, Danny Kvyat getting a ex Formula One driver to join their program. That was huge for the team. A lot of people were really pumped to see Kvyat racing the World Endurance Championship this year alongside Rusinov and do some incredible things in his post Formula One career. Now, fortunately, that program's not going to happen with Rusinov pulling out of the World Endurance Championship program. And to answer the question we're talking about, does he have a valid argument about what's going on? Yes, he does. But also at the same time, you have to realize the current state of play in the world, and understand in times like this when your entire livelihood has been uprooted like this. It's tough. It's really tough. But as was said, and the way things are, that's just the way it has to be right now, and hopefully in the future we'll be able to put all this behind us. And Roman Rusinov, Danny Kvyat, they'll be able to return to doing the one thing they love most, which is racing. And next we're gonna shift a few gears to some sad news we have to report on from the Arca Menard series. Yesterday morning, around 4:30 a.m. in the morning, a terrible car accident occurred on a highway in Texas heading towards Phoenix Raceway involving a hauler belonging to Arca Menard Series team David Gilliland Racing. According to the initial report from the Texas Department of Public Safety, a Honda Passport with a towed trailer traveled west on I-20. The person driving the hauler for David Gilliland Racing approached the Honda's Passport's towed trailer from behind and struck it. The impact caused the Honda Passport to roll onto its side into the center median, and the towed trailer vaulted over a concrete barrier into the eastbound lane. The DGR hauler also traveled into the center median, hit a concrete barrier, and caught on fire, with the trailer carrying Taylor Gray's number 17 Ford turning onto its side. As you can see in the photo provided by the Texas Department of Public Safety, a really nasty accident on the highway. Steven Stotts, the David Gilliland racing hauler driver, sadly was pronounced dead at the scene, and David Gilliland Racing released a statement saying, "We are deeply saddened to confirm the passing of Steven Stotts, co-driver for our number 17 ARCA team transporter that was involved in an accident early this morning near Longview, Texas. Our deepest sympathies go out to Steven's family and friends. John Zavril and Michael Mizzle were passengers in the transporter. They were treated and released from a local hospital, and David Gilliland Racing's continued thoughts are with the driver of the second vehicle involved in the accident. The Arca Menard series released a statement as well, saying, "We are saddened to learn David Gilliland Racing hauler driver Steven Stotts lost his life in a traffic accident en route to this weekend's race in Phoenix. The NASCAR and ARCA communities send our thoughts and prayers to Steven's friends, family, teammates, and those injured in this accident during this difficult time. And on behalf of everyone here at Grid Network, we extend our deepest condolences to Steven Stotts' family and friends during this difficult time, and may his memory be a blessing." Next, here's Matt White with a Grid History update.
Hi everybody, Matt White here from Grid History. Time to give you this week's World Motorsport Results Roundup, and what a great busy weekend it was. We'll start, of course, in Australia. Supercars back at Sydney Motorsports Park again. Thankfully, let's hope that it's going to be their only trip there this season after 11 races there last year. But 2 wins in 2 300-kilometre races. One for Shane Van Gisbergen with great strategy play in the night race on Saturday, and then in the rain on Sunday, Chaz Mostert sweeping through to take victory. And of course, the points lead for the very first time in his career Support categories, plenty of them in action, couple to focus on. In Super 2, it was a great win for Jay Robotham on Saturday, taking advantage of some shenanigans going on in front of me, past 4 cars in 2 corners to make the places to take the lead on Saturday. And then on Sunday morning, Zach Best got the victory for Tickford, and he leads the championship. They're not back in action until Townsville, though, in July, so a big break for Super 2 through this spring-summer portion for us up in the Northern Hemisphere. In the Toyota GT86 series, man to look out for, Gibbons winning all 3 races. Lockie Gibbons down there sweeping the weekend in Toyota GT86. That was what happened at Sydney. At Losail, of course, we had MotoGP back in action for its first round of the season. What an emotional win that was for Renea Bastianini and the Gresini team on Sunday in the big class. Andrea Migno getting a win in Moto 3 and a first-time winner in Moto 2 in his debut race in the category for Celestino Vietti. So big weekend for Valentino Rossi, the birth of his child, 2 wins for some of his academy riders, and he's been in action this weekend at Paul Ricard in his Audi R8, which of course he'll be piloting in the GT World Challenge Europe, their first race coming up in a couple of weeks at Imola, with the first endurance race of the season. NASCAR, of course, in action at Las Vegas. Busy weekend again. It was Alex Bowman getting the victory, of course, in the Cup race. And it's NASCAR heavy this weekend coming up, with just Phoenix really on the horizon for us at the Grid Network, with Xfinity Saturday and Cup on Sunday. There is the first round of the European Rally Championship at the weekend, so we'll bring you a result from that on next week's show. Just a quick reminder that at @grid_history on Twitter rolls on every day. And today, Wednesday, we've posted the 2008 Qatar Grand Prix. Casey Stoney went into that race defending his championship and came away with a victory for Ducati and Losail. Plenty coming up on Grid History. Every day we'll post an on this day race from history. I've written all the way up to the end of the month now of March. So we've got some F1, some supercars, some NASCAR, of course, and some British touring cars filtered in there as well. So keep an eye on that. And if we've got a link to it from the Grid Video Vault, we'll post it on the tweet so you can enjoy that at your leisure. Back to bring you some more results on next week's show. Enjoy the races at Phoenix in NASCAR this weekend.
And speaking of NASCAR, here's an announcement that came straight out of left field. Team Strange Racing is starting up a NASCAR Cup Series program with plans to run 8 Cup races, partnering with blockchain development company Dignity Gold to fill the number 79 Ford Mustang. The team will also make its NASCAR Cup Series debut at Road America in July. They also plan to race at the IMS Road Course, Watkins Glen, the Daytona regular season finale, Charlotte Roval, Las Vegas, Homestead, and the season finale at Phoenix Raceway. For viewers out there unfamiliar with Team Strange, they've competed in select ARCA Menard Series races in the past. In 2019, they partnered with IndyCar team owner Sam Smith and Rick Peterson to put together an Indy 500 entry for the Spaniard Oriol Servia, who finished 22nd in the number 77 Team Strange Honda. So, Adam, with a new team entering the NASCAR Cup Series out of the blue, is it an early sign of the potential growth with the new 7th generation car?
Yeah. So far in 2022, we've had some incredible NASCAR action from across the board, starting in Daytona. Then we went to Fontana. Then we went to Las Vegas last weekend, and this weekend we're going to Phoenix. So maybe Team Strange Racing has watched some of this action and decided, hey, we want to participate and see how we do against, the likes of Hendrick Motorsports and Joe Gibbs Racing and Team Penske Racing. I think it'll be a struggle for the first few races because it's a brand new team, but we'll see if they can qualify, in all these races.
Yeah, a brand new team to the NASCAR Cup Series, and being a brand new team doesn't come without growing pains. As you mentioned, they're an open team, so they're going to have to try to qualify for the races. And I remember on Gridline wrap up, I believe we were talking about the field size being around 30, 37, 38 cars for the most part, and that we're not likely to see a full 40 car field for most of the events. So that could very well work in Team Strange Racing's favor if that continues. But if we see other teams announcing races, it might be an uphill climb to get into the show. I think as they get all the supply issues straightened out with the next gen car, seventh generation car, whatever you want to call it, then we'll start seeing more cars enter the Cup Series races. Probably over 40 have cars going home every week, like we saw in the old days. So I really feel like that NASCAR is onto something with this next gen car that is going to make the NASCAR Cup Series healthier over a period of time. And it's really cool to see Team Strange Racing literally come out of the blue and announce they're going to be racing the NASCAR Cup Series because nobody saw this coming at all. And now the driver they chose shocked everyone, and nobody saw this coming either. It's an ex Formula One driver from Brazil, 46-year-old Tarso Marquez, who made 24 starts in Formula One driving for Minardi. Marquez also has 27 starts in Champ Car. He last competed in 2018 in the Stock Car Brazil Championship in his home country. He also survived a really tough bout with COVID, so really glad that he was able to recover from that as well. Adam, were you surprised Team Strange decided to go with Tarso Marquez as their driver?
Yeah, yeah. We don't really see many Brazilians come into NASCAR. I think we've seen Christian Fittipaldi compete in NASCAR. There may have been others, but seeing Tarso Marquez in this car, I mean, I can remember when he drove in Champ Car. I remember when he drove in Formula One with Minardi. To see him, he's got it. He's got he has an uphill battle because he's probably never been to any of these tracks. We don't know how, I know there are some, maybe he has experience racing in a simulator, when it comes to all the tracks he's going to be competing at. But I wish Team Strange Racing and Charles Marquez all the best. It's to me, it's going to be an uphill battle with Tarso Marquez and Team Strange Racing.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, Adam. I was very surprised, and when they made the announcement that Tarso Marquez was going to be driving this car, I'm gonna be honest with all our viewers. I've never heard of this guy in my life. I was like, who in the world is Tarso Marquez? And I had to do an internet search about, has some starts in Formula One, Champ Car, racing stock car, Brazil, and this is really surprising. I thought with a brand new team coming to NASCAR Cup Series, they might actually have a driver who has experience racing in NASCAR, and this is something completely different from what Tarso has done so far in his career. And that said, I'm really glad he's willing to give stock car racing a chance. And when I say that I thought they go with a team with actual NASCAR experience, it's not to say I don't think Tarso Marquez belongs in NASCAR. I'm really glad he's willing to go out on a new adventure and try this, but I think he probably gonna need to race in ARCA trucks or Xfinity before that first Cup race at Road America. It's really interesting seeing how NASCAR approves drivers for these events. But right now, the one race on the schedule, Daytona regular season finale, I can't imagine NASCAR approving him to just go directly into a super speedway race at the Cup level without any experience racing at places like Daytona and Talladega. And we have Talladega coming up on the schedule and within the next couple of months. So I think it would be wise for Team Strange to try to get him in an ARCA race or the Xfinity race at Talladega for him to get experience on these super speedways. I think that would be really helpful towards his development in stock cars and getting him that valuable experience. And I believe that Team Strange plans to enter the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series race at Sonoma. So if Tarso's in that truck, that's going to be valuable experience for him as well. But overall, I think there's some things that they're gonna have to figure out with getting him approved for all of these certain tracks since he's been out of a car for so long, race in ARCA, Trucks Xfinity, run select races, get experience, and if NASCAR satisfied, he'll get approved. But uh, as I said, Daytona is the one race I really have serious questions about right now, unless he's going to run an ARCA race at Talladega or Xfinity on a super speedway.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Because you know, if I were if I were Team Strange Racing, I would have Carlos Marquez compete in the ARC race at Talladega or the Xfinity race at Talladega. You know, to give him some experience on a track like that, because you know it Daytona and Talladega are super speedways, and uh, you know I think you got to have a lot of experience, to compete at a place like that. It's not easy, You know, one of your first career starts is at Daytona or Talladega. We all know what happened with the big one. So it's going to be interesting to see how everything develops with Team Strange Racing and driver Tarso Marquez. And now switching over to some sports car news. Team Penske announced Penske Logistics will serve as the primary sponsor of the upcoming FIA World Endurance Championship. The 2022 WEC season begins on March 18th, which is just around the corner, with the 1,000 miles of Sebring International Raceway in Florida. Driving the number 5 Team Penske LMP2, Dane Cameron, Felipe Nasser. Those two Porsche factory drivers preparing for the upcoming LMDH program next year, and Emmanuel Collard completes the lineup. As you see here on the screen in the graphic produced by Team Penske, the LMP2 car is featuring the traditional yellow and blue colors we've seen in cars competing in IndyCar and in NASCAR competition. Running the full WEC season, Team Penske will return to compete at the 24 Hours of Le Mans for the first time since 1971. That's a long time in between starts. When two legendary drivers, Mark Donohue, David Hobbs, who we've seen in the broadcast booth in the past, drove under the captain's organization. And how cool will it be to see that car competing in the 24 Hours of Le Mans, going down the Mulsanne Straight. It's going to be a really, really cool sight to see. And Kobe, another time to wrap up another edition of Grid Tonight for this Wednesday.
Yeah, that's it for tonight's episode of Grid Tonight. And we will remind all our viewers to please like and subscribe to Grid Network here on YouTube. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. We encourage you to take 5 minutes after our show. Consider joining our Patreon page. Invest in Grid Network to keep us on the air well into the future. Do you want to buy me a coffee? Click the link in the video description below, and you can buy a drink for your favorite on-air talent here at Grid Network. A big thank you to Edward Hunter from Formula E Zone, Amber and Zachary for buying us one. We greatly appreciate it. Any amount will help us continue growing our motorsports media outlet. Visit Public.com, the stock market social media home. The link referral code below gives you $5 to invest immediately. Public.com allows you to connect with your friends. You can make new friends and use tools to learn how to properly invest in the stock market. And looking at our schedule for this week, Thursday, tomorrow morning, be sure to catch a new episode of Women in Motorsports with Joe Sabniego and Daniel Zuri from Races, the Girls Behind the Helmet. Saturday, back on the air at noon Eastern for Grid Live pre-race. And Sunday, Grid Live wrap-up, 90 minutes after the NASCAR Cup Series race at Phoenix Raceway. It's an easy week for us. The NASCAR racing at Phoenix is the only series we're covering this week. For Adam Lemries, I'm Kobe Lambert from the Podium Finish. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Don't be an anonymous investor. Join the stock market social media platform public.com. Invest any amount of money and share with friends and new friends. Discover new opportunities such as new companies and potential business partners and useful tools for beginners, and share your experience with friends on public.com. Link in the video description gets you $5 for being a Grid Network viewer. Use the referral code GRIDnet for your free $5 to invest and start investing and networking on public.com.